Hello and welcome to day one of Capture the Seasons Autumn. Today's theme is called Abundance, and I'm excited about starting with this in the series of the 5 days. I think it's a wonderful message to start with because all around us we have an abundance of there's fruit out in the gardens, apple trees laden with heavy branches. I've just been gathering some apples in. We have a few apple trees here at home and I can't pick them up quick enough. The wind is blowing them off the trees. So there's fruit, but also in hedgerows, there's a lot of wild berries, hawthorn berries, blackberries, um, elderberries. It's just a patchwork of beautiful sort of shiny berries, as sloe berries, which have a lovely sort of different glaze on the skins. Everywhere you go, there's a burst of some kind of colour just waiting to be noticed. And that's kind of what I want you today to do, is to have a look when you go outside at what you can see around you, whether it's wild growing or if it's in an orchard or in a garden. There's still some lovely late blooming flowers around, which give some unexpected pops of colour. It's all about really noticing the abundance. And I'm actually, as well as being a designer, I'm from a farming background as well. So I've been noticing obviously the harvest and all the crops that have been gathered in now from the fields, ready in store for the times, as we go into winter, animals need feed. Obviously, for us too, it'll be their grain to be made into bread. So that gathering in and the abundance that's been gathered in is something to bring into a feeling today. So yeah, if I'm sorry, sometimes I do get tractors going around in the background. So if you hear some noises, I can't really control those, but that's because my studio is kind of near a field. But yes, please today sort of notice that feeling of abundance. Even when we look at the trees, the amount of leaves, everything's really just that growth now, that cycle that we've come round full circle is sort of giving its last blast of glory. And it's just a wonderful time to kind of really absorb that energy. And when we go outside, I think that's when we can get that sort of almost peaceful feeling, because that growth and that energy has all come through and now it's been gathered back in. And that's what I want you to notice today. So the tasks today really are to go outside, take a break from your daily routine, choose a time of day that suits you, and just go outside. And as you walk, just start to notice around you all of the growth, the leaves, just how much there is around us, because sometimes we can sort of start focusing on the lack of what we don't have. But it's really important to focus on what we do have. And that's what I want you to do. When you start looking outside and seeing how much there is, whether it's in a park, look at the trees and just see the growth there. Notice how many leaves there are. I mean, if we try to count them, we'd be there forever. There's just so much around us, and just bring that thought into you that nature, it will always start to fill that kind of empty space. And this is a cycle now where the leaves will start falling, but there's another cycle coming as well. So it's a natural way of reminding us about the abundance all around us. And when you go out for a walk, also just focus in on your breath. Take a deep breath in and then allow that breath out. And again, just focus on your breath and allow it back out again. And just be grateful for that, the abundance of air, and that we have that never-ending cycle of our breath. Focus in on that. And as you do, just then look around you, and all those thoughts that you may have been kind of holding on to with the busyness of your day, allow them to soften as you breathe and you breathe out. Just take that time for yourself and to bring your awareness into your body, and also then use the nature as a guide to kind of soften your mind, soften the edges that may be something you're tightly holding on to, and allow yourself to focus on the abundance. Maybe look at hedgerows and let your eye follow the line of the hedgerows. They're just full of these movements of different lines. As if you're painting and drawing, your eye flows across and follows those lines. None of them are straight and rigid. Just allow those lines to let your eye be drawn through like a thread. And maybe you come and stop and rest. If you see some spots of colour, could be some bright red berries there. Just allow your mind and eye to be drawn along through with these beautiful kind of movements. And the hedgerows are bursting forth now, whether it's ivy, which is actually flowering and it has these lovely little green kind of heads on, or if it's the berries or thorns. I mean, that's the other thing about the hedgerows that we're looking at now. If you're looking at blackberries, they could be tangled up in these kind of thorny, thick kind of stems, and to get to those berries you have to maneuver and get through all of those kind of things that get in the way. So there is sweetness there to be had, but it's not always so easy to reach, and that's also like things that we may encounter with our own lives and steps through our lives. You know, there's sweetness to be had, but there may be things to get through first that aren't so easy to face, but it's worth it to get to the sweetness. So notice these things around you and bring that feeling of abundance, and just it's something that you can ground into as you're walking, and just relax your mind by bringing your focus onto your breath, feeling that in your body and allowing a release as you go, and just notice. And then when you come back in, you can spend a little bit of time on another task later on if you have time in the day. Bring that feeling back into your body, back from feeling into your breath, and thinking back about all those things you noticed today outside on your walk. And maybe start to think about what you can harvest, what has been fruitful for you up to this point in the year. What could you kind of gather in? Maybe make a note of that and just see how far you've come. Just see, what are your fruits? What are the fruits of your labour, or the fruits of friendships you built, or the fruits of your work? You know, all of these things are important to really acknowledge and just to make a note of, and to think, well, you know, this is how far I've got. This is the growth I've had. And really just appreciate that. And then thirdly, another task, if you have time, if you'd like to try this also, is you could visualize like a larder. Say, for instance, I know I have been making chutney with the abundance of plums we've had. I think there's been a lot this year. So I've used those up and made lots of chutney, and I've been putting them in my larder in jars. And I just thought it'd be quite a nice kind of way to kind of gather what you have got in your sort of store, as it were. And just visualize a larder with shelves, and you could think of one shelf for sort of, this is my work, this is my relationships, this is sort of all the fun things I've been doing. You know, they can be stacked and shuffled around differently. They may cross over. But just imagine what you have in that larder, what you've stored up, and maybe notice if there's something that might be missing. You know, is that shelf, my fun shelf, looking a bit empty? You know, if so, how can I fill that? I need to fill those jars and make sure that they're not empty. I really think my fun shelf needs to be fuller. So use that sort of imagery to think about areas in your life that you've really been filling up, and also areas where you could do with a little bit more in that larder, in that store of yours, because it really is helpful to kind of recognize what we have a lot of, but also where we may need some extra things putting in there, so we have a balance. And you know, it's also about maybe throwing some stuff out, you know, that's filling up the space that you want more good things to go into, you know. So that's the 3 different areas or tasks. One is simply to go outside and notice the abundance around you, and feel into yourself, ground into yourself, and let yourself soften up into sort of releasing any sort of tension, and allow that feeling to flow, start flowing through you, and really noticing and focusing on that feeling of abundance. And then the other 2 tasks are really about looking at how you have, what you have actually harvested, how fruitful you have been, and thirdly, what are your stores, you know, for later on when you are feeling a bit, you know, need buoying up, or you need some extra energy. You can draw from those resources, or what you might need to just put a little bit more work or thought or practice into, to sort of boost up the stores that are not quite so full. And you'll notice what you have, and maybe what you need to just work on a little bit more. So those are the tasks today. And I also, there's some affirmations there just to sort of bring that feeling again into the forefront of your mind, of abundance and how to connect to it, and how you are connected to it, and the cycle that will bring that abundance round to us. So enjoy today's tasks. Do you get outside? Do you enjoy just kind of noticing the nature around you? And let me know how you feel. If you want to just make notes in the downloadable, do print that off. That's there for you to use. And that's really basically just for you to do in your own time. So enjoy today and the bountiful feeling and all the beautiful things outside in the season of autumn.